Welcome to Circular Firing Squad. I'm Marty Jensius, a counseling faculty at Kent State University and host for Circular Firing Squad. This week, 3 members, 6 questions, because we've only got 3 members, and 3 answers for each question. Each of our squad members generates a question that we all have to answer, and some of them are academic, and some of them are just fun. Let's see who's with us tonight.
Hi, everybody. Elliot Ingersoll, professor of counseling at Cleveland State University and host of Apply Topically.
Hey, everybody. Mitch Conrad, licensed professional counselor.
All right, Elliot, we're each going to get 2 questions tonight. And so we've got your first question to start with.
And here we go. Here comes autumn. What are you looking forward to as the seasons begin to shift?
So one of the things that I got back into last year was walking in nature. It really started with spending time at my internship at Baldwin Wallace, and I went to undergrad there as well. And it is an absolutely beautiful campus in the fall. I mean, it's beautiful year round, but the fall really brings out some great vibes at BW, and have always really loved it there outdoors. There's some wonderful walking segments by Coe Lake, and some really beautiful park areas there. My friend actually got married there, and it was I remember like the rental was something like maybe like $100 or less or something like that to rent it. And they had this like beautiful outdoor wedding at this park. But back to the question, right? I haven't really spent as much time walking outside in autumn or doing much walking in the several years like before that. Like when I was at CSU, a lot of the walking consists around like walking around the university, which is a lot different of a cityscape, but really love things at BW. So one of the things that I'm interested in is like making sure that I'm getting out in nature weekly, watching the leaves change, and just enjoying myself outdoors.
Well, I got to tell you, I like there's that point in autumn where the majority of the leaves are still on the tree or trees, and they have changed color, and the sun is really bright, and it's kind of a cool but not too cold, crisp day, and that lasts for about a day. Then the leaves fall off, it rains a lot, so I can't pick that as my favorite. So I'm going to pick something that is my not favorite part of autumn. The flooding of pumpkin spice into the market. That is equivalent to, squash with cinnamon, infused into everything. So if I can't have more than one day of those beautiful, sunny, crisp but not cold, beautiful autumn colors in the leaves, if I can't have more than one day of that, then I have my not, and my not is pumpkin spice.
I knew pumpkin spice was going to figure in here somewhere. I just knew it. I love these answers. But yeah, man, I just bought a pumpkin spice base, Marty. I'm so sorry. I think you'd like the sound of it, but it does have a peculiar odor to it. I love, well, obviously Halloween. Halloween is my favorite holiday. And my son and I are going to upgrade some of our decorations this year. We need some of these light strands are 10 years old and half of them don't work. And I think we want to go for a new aesthetic this year. I love to rewatch scary movies. I love cooler weather recipes. I have got a killer stuffed pepper recipe. Oh my gosh, it's so good. and I've been wanting to make it, but everyone's like, "Oh, well, that's kind of a cool weather. Let's wait. Let's wait." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll wait." But yeah, in the next month or two, I'll be able to whip out those stuffed peppers, and trust me, I'm not whistling Dixie on that. Um, I can also say this: I am in a Rue Morgue magazine, the preeminent horror magazine of North America. I'm in a Faces of Halloween contest. And any listener who wants to can plug Faces of Halloween into their server and go to the contest, and you can vote for or against me. I don't think I really quite caught all the ideas they were aiming for, but I'm trying to do something digital and it's a new thing and I'm just giving it my best. So I signed up, I sent in pictures, I sent in all kinds of stuff. And so if you're interested in a Face of Halloween contest, the winner gets to meet Jamie Lee Curtis.
Wow.
I'm like, come on, man. I watched her career from Halloween on out. I've gotten to see the artist mature. I would love to meet Jamie Lee Curtis. And that's why I think maybe I have a chance. Maybe they don't want some 19-year-old stuttering over his words when they meet Jamie Lee Curtis. They'd rather have a 64-year-old stuttering over his words. So we'll see. But,
She is on the cover of AARP magazine this month.
God bless
So,
Jamie.
Yeah.
She gets out there. I love it.
Yeah. And, politically and socially, she's very cool in terms of the stuff that she talks about. So, all right. And then it goes to Mitch. Mitch has got the next question.
All right. So with the idea of like counseling appointments, I don't want to say like heating up, but like more people usually going back to counseling inside the fall months. My question tonight is, if you were speaking to an adult who's looking to go to counseling for the first time, what would you share with them?
Besides the things that you would normally say to folks about it, things like, this is a place for you to be comfortable and enjoy yourself, and it is healthy and it's a good decision to do it. I would also suggest that it's the most selfish thing that you can do. It's probably only one of the few selfish things that you can do that make an opportunity for you to do your own self growth. So I would kind of help them understand what the setting's about, help them understand what the purpose is about, remind them that they're there to do the work. The counselor is not there to do the work for them, but also it is like as selfish, I'd say even more selfish than a confessional with a priest. You get to put in it whatever you want to put in it, and that becomes what you're paying for. So enjoy it. It will be a good adventure.
Oh, I like that. I mean, quite honestly, I wouldn't say anything unless they asked me. And if they asked me, I would share anything about it that I wanted to. But I like Marty's idea that, yeah, you're going to do this thing for yourself. Some people might think of it as selfish, and ultimately it is kind of selfish. And but I have a background in theology too, so I understand that the Lord works through the darkest moments, I think. So it's like kind of all comes together. If they asked me, what would I tell them? Yeah, I think get ready to be honest. Be honest. Just be honest with yourself. Start there. It's really hard to do. So start there is what I would say. Be honest with yourself.
Yeah, thanks everybody for your answers there. Appreciate the idea about honesty, especially. I think one of the things that also resonated was the idea of like it being time for yourself, and a way that you can like intentionally cultivate that and what it's about for you. Because it can be so personal at times. And definitely identify too with the idea of like, is there something to say necessarily like beforehand, versus like if someone did ask, you know, so with the idea that someone would ask for sure, like some of the things that I was thinking about are really take advantage, because it seems like a lot of people are offering, like even like short consultations beforehand. And, I think it's important. It can be important to some people to look around and see what's out there for like in a counselor or any other kind of therapist if someone's interested in like working with a social worker, psychologist. But um, especially with psychology today, sort of like the boom of these 15 to 30-minute consultations where it's just like, yeah, just call somebody up, chat with them, and like see how it feels for 15 minutes and then make a decision from there.
Okay. I think I have the next question, and my question is, if you could eliminate or change any aspect of a counseling conference, what would it be?
This is fun for me, Marty. I really appreciate this. I learned this phrase from my younger colleagues, so I'm going to use it to try to appear up to date, but what they call the circle jerk of awards. Boy, yeah, man. Oh, yeah, that goes so way too far in so many way too wrong directions in so many conferences. And I want to honor people. I do. I want to be grateful for people's work, but at the same time, I watched someone who was barely 40 get a Lifetime Achievement Award once, and I'm like, wow, are you predicting something horrific for this person? Give them another 40 years. Heaven knows what they'll do. They might even top their thing here, Yeah, so I could do without that for sure. I would eliminate that first thing.
Mitch?
There's just things that could also be emails, and that's one of the things that definitely resonates. I've been to, to be fair, only 2 counseling conferences so far. And that was something that I did notice where, OCA, which I feel like does a great job. At least the 2 times that I've been there, it's been nice. I think the intro of the first day is not the first day, excuse me, the second day, like the intro where everybody's there for breakfast, and then there's the intro segment, and then there's the award show. It is a really long time. Absolutely. I think that one of the concerns that, like, I wouldn't even say it's a concern, but just something that I'm interested in is like, it seems like some of the sessions that I went to could have been shorter, and some of the sessions that I went to could have been longer. And so I think like when there's this strict idea of like, we're going to just keep things at an hour at a conference, that can work out. And I'm curious to see like, okay, like what does like a 90-minute session look like? What does like a 45-minute session look like? I understand there's time for Q&A. But with the strict scheduling of these like larger conferences, I think it's also like honestly easy and feasible to create something that is allowing for different types of timetables for presentations. And, if people want to go to those presentations and get like an additional CEU credit, like for like a 90 or a 2-hour session, I think that would be beneficial too. It's just, I remember there were some sessions that I was sitting through and I'm like, actually, like, we could go for another like 30 minutes or an hour here. I feel extremely interested in that. And that seemed to be the idea with other people too. Especially because there's not necessarily as much time for Q&A and discussion, or maybe if it's a smaller group and activity. Just some thoughts.
I like that. It's kind of the 3 bears approach. This bear's presentation was too short. This bear's presentation was too long. This one was just right.
There are so many answers I have for this question that we could have done the whole show on it. couple of things, and Elliot, you go back a few years like I do. There was a time where you went to a conference on Thursday and Friday afternoon had literally nothing scheduled. And it was your opportunity to go explore the town. So if you were in a major city, it was like, yeah, this is when I'll go to the San Diego Zoo or whatever, similar sorts of things that you could do. That's absent from conferences now because we're trying to compress everything into it. We're trying to get as many people presenting as possible. And so on. And then you wind up with people presenting to 2 or 3 people. The other thing that strikes me about conferences is, see, I told you I could go on all night on this. Keynote speakers, generally boring, generally ineffectual, generally saying
Hear,
stuff
hear.
that I already have heard of.
Hear,
And
hear.
I'm, so that hour and a half to 2 hours when they have the keynote speaker, you will find me wandering the halls, getting a late breakfast, doing something like that. And so that would be something I think they should eliminate. And then the third thing that just amazes me is whenever I think of meeting as a group, I had a mentor of mine who taught group say to me, use this sentence to figure it out. The sentence is, why are we meeting like this? And if you break down each one of those words in the sentence, you have a purposeful reason of what should be expected in a group. I can listen to someone's PowerPoint online. If you're going to take 45 of the 50 minutes to do a PowerPoint presentation to me in the room and hold questions for the last 5 minutes, I can do that online, and half the time I don't have questions anyways. So I don't think speakers are effectively using the room in terms of giving people some brief ideas to work with and then engage them around the topic in a way that creates a learning experience from them and with them together as a group. I almost said the best thing that we could do is get rid of PowerPoint. But still, for me, it's a larger process that doesn't occur in learning situations for conferences. So I've given you 3 things there. I apologize. Elliot, I sure hope your next question has nothing to do with conferences.
Well, and I got to say, I'm right there with you, Marty, about the keynotes. A lot of times they're not even counselors. I was in one, I won't mention names, but it was a keynote, and the person was talking about how sugar was as addictive as heroin. And I actually stood up to go after the person. And my colleague, Claire Campbell, grabbed me around the waist and said, Elliot, go get a coffee. Get me a coffee. Just go get some fucking thing. And I went and did that. But it's just like, yeah, horrible choices. And I'm like, look, let me make this easy. Pick me. I will entertain. I will get that room laughing at least 5 times. You need someone who knows how to work a room and how to give a fun presentation. Just saying.
And I don't just put that on the keynoter. I put it on everybody who gives a presentation at a conference.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as if we were going to depart from the counseling conference theme, unfortunately, this is what I came up with. What would be a perfect, in your mind, counseling conference theme?
In the spirit of combining some of the answers that have been given, I'm wondering about a more fun Halloween costume performative type theme at a conference. Some of the other things that I was thinking about are like, I do wonder about some of the more, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't want to say like alternative therapies. That always feels weird, but sometimes it feels like the last 2 times that I've been to OCA, I think one of the things that I noticed was that some of the presentations, like even with like, didn't necessarily have like big changes year to year. It's one of the reasons that I didn't do a presentation again at the conference this year, because I don't think like repeating my presentation from last year makes any sense. And certainly some of the stuff that you shared, Marty, about like providing a more engaging and interactive experience where it's more active learning. I do wonder about how the conference can actually like set the tone with that. And I'm not intending to like harp on like OCA here or anything like that, but it's even the way that the conference rooms are set up. It's just like rows of chairs. Some of the like the initial day, the first day of the conference, like the rooms are actually set up different. From what I saw, like round tables where people were engaged in different types of activities. And so if someone came in there with a particular form of like therapy, that's when people were actually like practicing like using the therapy, like, hey, like get with a partner and think about like, how does this like work? How does this like framework, try this framework on, try this language on. I think any way to get people a little bit more comfortable can actually start at the conference level too, like at the organizer level. I feel like I'm getting away from the theme question here, but this also
Yes,
feels
you are.
important. Yeah, I definitely am. Yeah, that would be maybe a good theme to have, is something that's a little bit more performative, interactive, creative. We did have a creative one at the last conference, but I felt like the way that that's got to be set up, or the way that can be set up in rooms, can start with the conference organizers and then setting the tone by letting presenters know of like, we would like this to happen, and for people to come prepared with an activity or some type of interaction for at least a half an hour. That'd be nice.
I had the task of setting a conference theme when I was regional president for ACES. And I went on and did national president. I don't even remember the theme then, or if I even said it or they said it for me. But I was always against themes because, the proposal would come out and it would be generally at that time the president's idea of what was important. And so when it came to me, they're like, oh, you're going to do something on technology, aren't you? And I'm like, no, I do not want to force everybody to fit into my little their square peg into my little round hole, because giggity, but because it is just too much. Because then you're sitting, you have to write the proposal. It's like, okay, now I've got to figure out what this has to do with counselors who have these kinds of problems or issues. And I have to stretch my topic to fit into. So I always hated that. And I was like, I don't want to do that if it falls on my shoulders to make people have to fit their title and their topic into my thing. So I think it was something like research, practice, and teaching was my title, which meant anybody could do anything, which is how I wanted the theme to be, essentially. I actually said, we have no theme I really wanted it to be that, but I got vetoed on that. They said, no, you have to have a title for it. So that was my take on it.
I love that answer, because honestly, I am a master of, oh gosh, what is that where someone can bend themselves all ways?
Contortionist?
Yes, a contortionist. I can be an academic contortionist. You tell me what the theme is. Heck yeah, I'll figure it out, mother trucker. I'll give you something that matches. But I always hated it because I'm like, well, I just spent 2 years on this project and it doesn't match your. Yeah, that's a wonderful answer. So I'll give you mine. And mine is, I want to have a frickin' conference about all the crap we lie to ourselves about. It's called The Counselor Has No Clothes. We could do it in a nudist form, but I don't think that would get a lot of people. So Okay, but the counselor has no clothes. What do we lie to ourselves about? Oh, let's start with the biggest lie, the necessity of K-crap. And I'm going to call it K-crap, Marty. You can bleep me if you want to, but oh, the heck with those people. They can go pound sand. They haven't done one productive thing that I can tell in the entirety of their existence. Oh, what about the etiology of mental disorders? Gosh, we don't know anything. Wouldn't that be a hoot? Have all these presenters getting up and saying, yep, obsessive compulsive disorder, and we have a few longitudinal studies, and ultimately we don't know anything. How's the schizophrenia panel doing? Well, thanks, Fred. Actually, thanks for checking in. But, we have a couple promising theories that failed to get consensus. We don't know anything. How's that depression panel doing? Well, we have 11 candidate genes and at least a dozen theories of how people get depressed. But honestly, we haven't gotten agreement on any one. Bing, bing, bing. There you go. Okay, so K-crap. Oh, empirically validated treatments. Screw it. I would just say, let's start getting empirically validated treatment manuals. Let's go fascist. Let's burn them for one of the keynotes. That would be better than a keynote. We're going to burn in empirically validated treatments. Medical mutual manuals into the fire. I love that. Here's a good one. The power of any theory to actually execute change. Well, we don't really know if we have that. How about the enabling circumstances clients really need to benefit from counseling? That would be a great topic. So yeah, that's my topic. The counselor has no clothes. And let's just start talking about the lies we tell ourselves so we might be able to get down to something a wee bit more productive. Gosh,
Elliot,
that
this is where your colleagues pull you aside and say you need a cup of coffee. Go get a cup of coffee. Wind down a little bit.
They tell me to go
Mitch,
get massage therapy. I have a
yeah,
massage therapist who does ashiatsu, and she can dig her toes so far into my spine that it's an altered state. That would definitely change my mind.
I am gonna have to mentally scrub my mind from what you just said. Mitch, you've got the next question.
It's better than it sounds.
I'm not sure how I can follow that up, but I'll try. So, what figure from history? Who is a historical figure who you find fascinating?
Since I got your question, I cannot get Freud out of my mind. And and I'm sure there are other historic figures that are not necessarily counseling related, but this is what stuck in my mind. And I've read Peter Gay's stuff. I pay a lot of attention to, how people portray Freud. And all of that. But to say that I find him fascinating, yeah, I find him fascinating. Doesn't mean I agree with everything. I think what he has said has more influence and has had more influence, good and bad, than what we give him credit for. I think he unlocked some stuff in us historically that we decided to do that changed the way in which we did things, and he doesn't get much credit for that. But it would be Freud. That would be the person that I find fascinating. I'd like to sit and have a cup of coffee with him. Elliot?
Freud's a great one. I have to go back to my childhood fascination with Harry Houdini, and I have, as far as I can tell, to date, read everything written about the man and about his work. And there was a wonderful biography. It was Harry Houdini, America's first superhero, and it's true. This dude, there's tons of evidence that he was spying for what was the precursor to the FBI and the CIA, because he would go to these countries and they would take him into their most, formidable prisons, and he'd figure out a way to get out. And then he would pass the information along to the people at the intelligence agencies. And this just blew my mind, but it made total sense. Every now and again, there are people who find a way to breach these really difficult ontological existential boundaries that we have as human beings, and they find a way to drive themselves. I've been, doing my own version of that, but not as good as Harry Houdini. The guy would soak in ice baths so that he could get shackled and chucked into a river in the middle of winter and then come up,
Hmm.
smelling like a rose. He always did. My grandfather met him. He did a show in Youngstown, and he went to the Youngstown prison, and they locked him up. And my grandfather said by the time we got back to the main room, he was already there. They'd stripped him down, locked him up. He was there fully clothed, and he had switched all the prisoners out of their cells into other cells. I mean, the guy was a genius of some kind, and he's the dude that I want to talk to.
Thanks for both of your answers there. Love this question. And the ideas of like what resonates for people. It's kind of that idea of like who would you sit around at a dinner, like who would you invite to a dinner table with? Have like three historical figures. Um, I'll go with. I was going to go with one, but I'm going to select two here just because of Marty's answer reminded me of somebody else who had been reading a little bit of recently. Is actually Charles Darwin. I think that I've been surprised in looking into some of Darwin's work after going through my counseling program about how some of that stuff can actually be really resonant for some of the things. I think that, I don't know if other people experience this, so I'll just speak for myself here. I know that there's this idea for me of like the separation between like humans and animals, and like as humans we're also animals, and we've had this evolutionary path that can sometimes like stretch in a similar way to other species. And I think it's interesting in terms of like how, for example, like I obviously like there's studies of rats and monkeys in terms of like psychology studies and psychiatry studies and whatnot. And I think it's important to, it can be important, I think, to look at Darwin's work for that reason, I guess, provide an additional perspective to some of the typical theories that are provided in psychology or counseling itself. The other historical figure who I'm thinking about is, FDR. Not that I want any president to have a third term. I do not. And FDR in like going through the Great Depression and World War II, what a immense task for an individual who was, I think, set with some really significant personal issues and really significant existential and governmental and societal issues, all in a 12, 13-year period or so. His story is something that's always really resonated with me. I remember going to I shouldn't say always, since high school, always really resonated since then, where I've visited some of the monuments in DC and remember reading about FDR. And so to pick his brain and to see what was going on for him at the time, I imagine that had to be so emotionally and personally stressful for him to, probably didn't expect the end of his presidency to look like it did after he got into it with, around the Great Depression era. So those were the two that I would say.
And don't get me wrong, there are so many, Mitch, yeah, FDR, absolutely. There's so many historical figures. But yeah, I recently read biographies of George Marshall and George Patton, and just very amazing creatures. Patton, I mean, some of him was batshit crazy, but he was very good at knowing how to lead people and how to inspire people. And as a person who's been in leadership, I read as much as I could to get, but I'm like, yeah, these were all stalwarts. But yeah, FDR for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question, Mitch. Really good question. And like I said, I got stuck on Freud and I couldn't shake loose of that. I'm sure there are other ones. If I could shake loose of Freud, the other ones that would come up, that would be people that I would just find that I'm really fascinated by.
Freud's a
So
good one.
my question is, what is something you know that will guarantee that you laugh?
Well, that's me and my brain, Jimmy, riffing. Like Jimmy and I, late at night, boy, we work on our comedy material, and a little cannabis does not hurt. But my wife, when we got married, she didn't like it when I would be sitting in a room all alone and I would burst out laughing. She'd be like, "What's so funny?" And I'm like, "You wouldn't understand." And she's like, "Well, try me." And then I would tell her the joke. She's like, "I don't understand."
Stand it, yeah, yeah.
But it's just like, Jimmy's still working on the biblical humor, the Cain and Abel thing, and it's just like Cain and Abel are roughing it up, and Adam's like, "Oh, yeah, Cain, calm down. One of these days, you're going to kill your brother. You know that?" I mean, just stuff like that. We'll pop it all night, and if the world was ending and the nuclear bombs were landing, I'd be like, "Jimmy, let's write some material. We're only going to have a minute,
Yeah.
but let's do some
You know,
stuff."
I had a friend in high school where we would sit on what we called the front stoop in Chicago, which are
Oh
our
yeah, the stoop.
stairs,
We had a stoop.
the stoop. And we would just kind of drop into character and start doing back and forth, jokes in character and just kind of riff on it. And that internal dialogue now stays with me, and I will do that. I'll start thinking about things quietly, sitting in the living room with my wife, and then start laughing. And she's like, "What's so funny?" And it's the same thing that you get. It's like, well, I don't know if I want to explain it to you. You'd find it in poor taste. You don't get it anyways. It's just I'm thinking funny stuff.
I think for me, one of my friends from high school, I think any time that I spend with her, we've always got some good laughs going on. The thing that came up for me, and I may have mentioned this on the show before, but I'm not sure, is Whose Line. I used to watch Whose Line.
Mm-hmm.
And even more than that, I would say is like improv. I have a bit of a fascination with improv because it's something that like I feel like I can't exactly like try to do improv, but sometimes I feel like I've got to like prepare for things, and so I have an appreciation for people who can do really good improv because it feels like it takes more energy for me to get into that space, I guess. Like I don't know. It's definitely gotten easier in, I'd say in recent years, but it's nothing like how I think I'm a little bit different than how I used to be in like undergrad, for example, where it felt like things came a little bit more natural. But Whose Line was such a great show. I don't know if it's still going or not, but I just appreciate like the original cast and Drew Carey, talking about like, hey, like, points don't matter. I'm like, oh, what like wonderful advice there. Like, so it was a really wholesome show. Also one that I watched with my family growing up. It was something that was communal for us weekly to sit down and watch. They had so many great episodes and just, I think a great show that brought a lot of people a lot of joy.
Well, and just to follow up, like once my kids got old enough, they'd say to my partner, "What's Dad laughing about?" And she'd be like, "Don't worry about it. You wouldn't understand." And then,
Yeah.
as they would get to the point where they would ask me, I'd let them in on the joke. They'd get some of them, but not all of them. But I'm like, yeah, I've already infected their brain with the virus of humor, and it's all existential. Nothing is sacred. Everything's up for laughs.
Mitch, the original cast of Whose Line were all British.
Yeah.
And, just like The Office, everybody talks about how great a show The Office was. It was the British version was remarkable, and you can still get that and see that. For me, the topic, the thing that always gets me and guarantees me to laugh is, I would say, Marx Brothers films. That kind of era of comedy, the Stooges, and a lot of people are like, I don't get the Stooges, particularly my wife and family. I just don't get the Stooges. It's a different experience when you're sitting in a room with a whole group of people watching it, because the laughter is then contagious with everybody around you. And I learned this when I took my first film class in college, and they were going to show The Gold Rush, Chaplin's The Gold Rush. And if you watch a silent film, he does some funny stuff, dances with the shoes, eats the leather, that kind of stuff. It's funny, but when you're watching it with another 30 or 40 people in the room, somebody will always find something funny to laugh at. So you have this kind of group experience where laughter is constant. And if you like Whose Line, I would suggest you look at Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, I love that show.
Because of the same sort of thing. You're riffing.
Good show,
and occasionally they do live showings in theaters. Like there's a remainder of the group that does stuff typically out of a Nashville, Tennessee theater. But they beam it to other theaters. And I will go to those shows with my son because I raised him right on MST3K. And we will go to those shows, and it's filled with like 40 other people. And it's another situation where whatever they say, somebody in the room finds it funny, so they're always laughing. So it's those kinds of experiences that guarantee that I will always laugh, and that kind of humor is what it is. So
I'm so glad you brought that show up, by the way.
Yeah.
And Marty, did you see Joel when he came to the Akron Civic recently? It was about right before COVID, I think.
No, I don't get out much, but yeah, it's.
Well, he was great. It was great.
Yeah. So final shot question, and this one actually comes from Stephanie, who couldn't be with us tonight. She didn't know if she's going to make it home in time, and then I got a text message about 30 minutes before we were going to record, and she said not going to make it. So I used her final.
She gave a great effort, though. How many of us, after a long road trip, are ready to just rush in and do a podcast? She gave it her best. I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Yay, Steph.
So her question was, do you like thrill rides?
I'm sorry, man. Do I like thrill rides? Hello. I'm here in a 4-dimensional version of planet Earth. This is a thrill ride. I have no idea how to explain this. But there are celestial councils. The one has to become the many. And the first thing that they do is divide into polarities. And polarities then present male, female, good, evil. And Earth, in this 4-dimensional universe, this is one of the greatest thrill rides in the cosmos. Now, I'm just going to tell you, because I have this long COVID and I sleep I sleep so much. I used to sleep 4 to 6 hours a night. Now it's like 12 to 14. But I started practicing Tibetan dream yoga because I'm like, well, let's keep aware while we're in the subtle realm. But I've met so many creatures who were like, oh, you're on the earth thing. I'm like, oh, I'm in the thick of it, actually. And they're like, yeah, one of them told me I had a mentor right after the one split into polarities. And one of my mentor split into polarities, went on the earth trip. And this sentient being said to me, and you'll have to bleep this, but this is what she said: you won't effing believe it, okay? And I was like, yeah, that's kind of life. That is like this. So as a younger person, I liked Cedar Point. I would go on roller coasters, but thrill rides, I was always a little terrified of life. Life terrified me because there were so many ways I could have gotten knocked out, and I almost did so many times. So I was like, why do I want to go on an amusement park ride to scare me? I've already been scared half to death by what's happened to me in my life. So yeah, I'm like, no, the earth, the four-dimensional universe, this is the thrill ride of the cosmos. You're either eating something or trying to reproduce with something, but there's no peace, there's no calm, and you got to sort it before you get old and die. And I think that's wonderfully hilarious. I love it. I do. I'm in.
Mitch, a yes or no would be a sufficient answer to the question. I just want to let you know.
I'm really not sure if I can follow that one up, but I love that answer, Elliot. It's a yes for me. I have a lot of like what I feel like are sensory memories of like being at Cedar Point as a kid. I wasn't brave enough, or I guess, to like ride roller coasters initially. I felt really scared, but now I love them. I still love going to the park, even though I can't spend as much time there as I used to when I was like a teenager, in terms of like walking around. But I really love Cedar Point, love roller coasters and thrill rides. Yeah.
It's a definite no for me. Never liked them when I was a kid, never had much opportunity to go on them as a kid. And as an adult, as a young adult, I think I went on one and it was like, no, I don't need to feel that kind of loss of orientation. And now as an adult, standing up really fast, I get vertigo. So why would I want to go on a thrill ride? So, no, it's a definite no all across the way. There's no existential reason. There's no long, drawn-out explanation of why I don't. It's no is the answer to that question. Now, our listeners might have different opinions about thrill rides, and that's why you listen to this podcast. But I want to thank the firing squad tonight, Mitch and Elliot, for joining and for throwing in a couple of extra questions for us. Look for some of these characters on their podcasts at thepodtalk.net. You can check out other podcasts at thepodtalk.net. There's a list of them that I'm involved in. They also are live streamed on YouTube, so if you want to watch them or see the video or listen to the audio, it's all available, and the links to that are available at the website, thepodtalk.net. Our music is from Menage a Trois, Real Swing Shet. That's it for this episode of Circular Firing Squad.